It's like 10 years, 8 months, about
Okay. And how many sentences was that?
four, three
Okay.
state prison terms and one county jail term.
Well, what an odd one. I swore I wasn't going to talk about Wes Watson anymore unless something significant happened, and lo and behold, something significant has happened. Actually, I feel like I need I need my chains before I start this video. I'm really playing the part today.
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the nine.
Well, by now, you all know that Wes Watson was arrested for a felony assault, and during that court case, his lawyer had to shut him up before he said anything, and it seems like now he just continues to dig a deeper hole. He lost his escort girlfriend because while he was in jail, he messaged other girls, and now has a family using another man's child as a prop on his Instagram, and the girl is gone, posting her advertisement on the escort website again, specifically saying that she pegs men as one of the perks. Besides the point, he's recycling old content until he can rebrand himself with his new family, again, another man's child, which is concerning to say the least. So what has really happened to him? I guess I don't really know behind the scenes, of course, no one does, but we can only assume, and assuming is making an ass out of you and me, so I just won't really do much. And to be honest, once the internet grabs a hold of you, it really grabs a hold of you. So I don't think I need to do more assuming because there's plenty of people doing that. But man, this is crazy. I mean, this dude knows what he's doing. He went from a generic ass prison dude to a viral sensation on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Quite a spectacular time to be alive for someone like me. And John Bravo deserves a huge thank you for staying on this beat like a fucking surgeon. I can't believe how accurately he gets this information and how quickly he pumps it out. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, I wanted to get more of an understanding of people like Wes because we see Westergen and his crew all over the place. Rip, rich, and rare, or something like that. Well, he ain't rich. He's not that rare, to be honest, because it's a dime a dozen on the internet these days to be one of him. And the richness is possible, I guess. He has money. I don't know where it's coming from, but that's there. So great. The personality is just kind of yuck, you know? It's kind of yuck. It's not really rare anymore. It's just kind of like, ugh. I don't know when you guys grew up, right? But when I grew up, the guys that wore the knockout shirts, the fighting shirts, yeah, he's kind of like these guys that wore the American Fighter shirts and like when we were in high school and shit. Oh man, they did this with like the washed jeans, you know? He's one of those guys. But my intrigue became as I watched all of this unfold, what does it take to create a person like Wes Watson? Well, I decided to reach someone who had done some time in the pen that wasn't an influencer and wasn't necessarily preaching his values higher than anybody else's. And he also happens to be a bodybuilder, have tattoos all over, and has a pretty successful life, but in a different capacity than Wes Watson. His name's Sean. He's actually a really cool dude. I'm super happy we got to spend an hour talking together, and hopefully I'm gonna clip some of the highlights and propose to you some of the questions that I had in this video and give some insight. What actually happens to a person inside? As a general statement, I think it's pretty good to learn what does it take for someone to get invested into the prison lifestyle? How do you even get there? Okay, so what, where did you where did you go wrong? What happened that got you to the point of ending up in prison from developing a bad habit to actually ending up in prison for the first time?
So, I mean, my first time, I would say that just getting addicted to opiates would be the catalyst for all this shit, right? I would have never sunk to the lows that I'd sunk to or committed the crimes I committed, mostly theft stuff, if it wasn't a need for that drug. But I went to county jail for a first degree burglary that's residential. I stole a PlayStation from someone's house in 2009. And I went to county jail. I did a year, which with good time, you do about 8 months. And that pretty much desensitized me to jail, to like the institutions in general. I didn't see it as a consequence. And furthermore, like I had just started using my drug of choice like maybe a year prior to catching that case. And I was like not in any way, shape, or form trying to give that up. So like I was getting loaded in jail. And as soon as I got out, I picked up again,
Damn.
off running. And dude, my first prison term, I mean, it's embarrassing to be honest. Like I forged my mom's checks, dude. Like that's
Wow.
like just like a terrible, shitty criminal crime of opportunity, like, taking advantage of the ones around us like a true drug addict, right?
Yeah.
Uh, So yeah, I was just forging her checks, buying Oxy 80s, shooting them up, and she was like, dude, I'm done with your shit. Called my probation officer and they filed charges on me and I ended up doing a prison term for that. And it wasn't long. It was 16 months. I did about 10 and I went to San Quentin my first time. And
Dude.
I mean, and dude, like everyone's like, oh, San Quentin. Like, dude, San Quentin's like chill, pretty much. Like, I mean, it's scary when you walk in, don't get me wrong, because it's this old fucking, it's the oldest prison in the state, man. It's from like the 1850s, I
Yeah.
believe. Very old. It looks like a castle. And you walk into your cell block and it's 5 tiers and you're on the bottom tier and you walk in, and you just look up and see just, and it's like real cells with bars and shit.
Yeah.
It's intimidating, bro. And everyone's loud and yelling and new fish on the line. There's, examining you and talking shit. And um, my first, my first morning there, I remember I was 20, bro. I had actually had just turned 21. I got transported to San Quentin on my 21st birthday.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh my
Fucking,
God.
I had no tattoos. I had like the Justin Bieber hair. This was like 2010 when that was still popular. Um, and I walk out, then like I spend the night my first day, right? My first half day or whatever. My first full day, they pop our doors to go to chow in the morning. And I remember I'm on the first tier, cell 50, all the way in the back. So I have to walk all the way down the tier to the end of the cell block to go to chow. And I remember walking out and everyone from the second, third, fourth, and fifth tier was just roasting me for my hair, bro. They were talking shit. They were like, "Hey, Justin Bieber." Bro, I was so ashamed. They're like, "We got a Jonas brother out here. What the fuck's going on?" Yeah. So I went back to my cell after chow and I took like they give you like a beanie, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I remember like slicking my hair back with some pomade and putting that
You're
beanie
just
on
like
to like,
real quick getting rid of that shit.
oh yeah, I was like trying to change my appearance immediately, you know?
Okay, so from Sean's perspective, it takes petty crimes that get you acclimated to the prison environment and make it not so foreign to you, which makes sense because we see Westrogen coming out with all these clothing lines that tailor themselves to prison lifestyle. Kind of funny. And it makes sense to me as well because in the military, you kind of acclimate to the military. In the army, we sort of leave the army with some of those traits sort of residually hanging around. They're like stains of ink on ourselves. It just seems like some of the more worst parts hung around Wes Watson as opposed to the good parts. But there's another piece to this. Another reason we see Wes Watson playing hand signs in his car and having a plate that says convict just so that everybody knows he was in prison. Camaraderie, closeness, or belonging that you get in prison. Something that you also find in the military.
You said you like acclimated, that got you used to prison or something, right? You said that was what desensitized you to prison. What
I
was
think just county
desensitizing?
jail did because like I realized it's not scary really, and like at that point like you're clicked up like, and then you start learning like how the politics work, and I started working out a little bit and getting a little getting my weight up, I guess, right? I was a skinny ass kid, bro.
Sure.
I mean, I still am. You know how my upper body grows very
Yeah.
slow, right? Yeah, dude, it just seeing that it wasn't like this scary place where people are just gonna like fucking beat you up on a whim or like rape you or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I felt like safe and protected, like running with the whites, and I felt like I was part of something. And I felt honestly, bro, like it's really cringe to look back on, and it's kind of shameful, but like I felt like cool,
Yeah.
like for the first time, I felt like I had a purpose.
I can under it's the camaraderie, right? Like it's
Yeah,
probably very much how I felt in the military too. It's you have a
totally.
platoon of people, which is essentially like your cellmate, and then you have that group of peoples with another group of people, but you generally know everybody. And then in the
Mhm.
group of people, there's cliques, and it's just like you all kind of you have like this circle that's pretty tight. You can't not have it because you're there every day with each other, no matter what you're doing, 5 a.m. to fucking bedtime. So
I
I
was
can
gonna
understand
say,
that.
yeah, it's probably similar in the respect to that you eat, sleep, and shit with all the same people, right? So you get
Yeah.
to know everybody really well, and bonds are forged really quickly. Like later down the line, my second prison term, like we got in a riot with the blacks when I was at Jamestown, and like I'm talking like probably 300 person riot, like
Whoa.
crazy, bro. And the sense of unity you feel when everyone's grouping up on the yard and you feel
Yeah.
the tension, and you see like all the whites coming together and grouping up, and everyone like you're like, oh fuck, this is gonna be crazy, but also like some solid motherfuckers over here too. Like I feel pretty good about this, you know? Them black dudes in prison, they get big, bro. They're scary.
Fucking Cali muscle, bro. Cali muscle.
And that was actually pretty eye-opening on figuring out why these prison influencers do what they do. But another thing comes to mind, because it's another trend we see within all of these individuals: steroids and abuse of those steroids. We talked about how red Wes Watson is and how high blood pressure his must be, and as well, many other influencers in his category of influencer. They have red, leathery skin like they've been blasting grams of gear since they were 12 years old. What gives?
So you said you were able to get drugs in prison.
Oh yeah,
So
dude,
how
yeah.
does that work?
I mean, it's different depending on, it's like facility to facility. I'd say the most common way drugs come in would be through visiting
Mm,
or family visiting. Family visiting meaning like conjugals. An ounce of heroin's like, you know, that big. And
right.
that's like a lot of dope. You know, an ounce of meth is about the same size. So you can get that, you can slip that to someone in a visit, and that's a lot of money, bro. Like there's a lot of money to be made. Like a little piece this big of heroin's like $50, right?
Wow.
Like a speck, dude. So
What
yeah.
about what about anabolic? Because I've heard a couple of stories from other guys who've done time, and they talk about anabolic steroids.
Mhm.
Did you have anything like that, like experiences, or seen anyone?
I was just talking about this in our chat, dude. Like, I've never seen in California prisons, and I've been to like 9.
Hmm.
I've never seen gear anywhere except for when I was at fire camp, which is like fire camp's a whole different thing in the prison system where like the inmates actually fight fires for Cal
Yeah.
Fire. But they're like these summer camps, like literally, dude. And there's no fences.
Oh
So
shit.
people are having like duffel bags of contraband dropped off. Like, there's hella cell phones, like
Fuck up.
everyone's smoking Marlboro 100s. It's fucking wild. So I'd heard of someone, and there's weights at fire camp. So I'd heard of people doing gear there, but like that's not the scene that I was really like involved in.
Yeah.
I was a dope fiend, bro. I was trying to get loaded.
Yeah.
Okay, so in short, we don't really know. But the long answer is that they're getting it somehow. Which I imagine when you come out of prison the size of Cali Muscle when he did, it's not hard to imagine that there's definitely some sauce on the inside. But man, the methods to the process gotta be insane. Imagine injecting yourself from a vial that was just up somebody's asshole. That's pretty weird. And I do think prison actually inspires many people to take steroids because the idolized individual in prison is big, bulky, and scary. And so if you can get tattoos, take steroids, and get huge, and basically be bald for sure, you're a winning prototype. It's great. Now, something that's also interesting is we hear that Wes Watson uses slurs all the time. You can literally listen to any of his coaching calls that have been leaked. He uses the hard R like it is a Sunday afternoon and he's at church. I don't know what I'm saying. He just uses it all the time.
Another one of these fucking weirdos. God, you dumb little fuck you, dude.
He also used it at Elevation Gym when he was attacking that guy who was of an African American descent. Pretty great. This isn't something new either, including Big Girl and him with the goons doing this as well. But why?
Also curious, why did they differentiate race so much in prison? Was there like a specific reason, or when you came in, it was just kind of like, well, fuck, like everybody's already doing it, I gotta fit in? Was it like an ideology, or was it just that that's just how it split everybody up?
That's just how it's been forever, dude.
Yeah.
That's just prison culture. And I think people will say, like, I'm sure, like Wes Watson says it, like, there's no prison systems in the US like California prisons when it comes to politics. Like, California prisons politic the hardest. There's the most gangs, there's the most, it's just pushed way harder, right? So you come in and immediately you're asked, like, if you're Mexican, ask, are you a homie? Are you a Southsider? If you're white, they're like, are you a Wood? You know, the Asians and Samoans and all that, they're others, right? That's their car. And the car would be like the group or the gang. So there's like the white car, the Norteño car, the Sereno car, or Southsider, the Paisas, and the others. And then within that, it's kind of split up into subsections. Like the black car has Crips, Bloods. And then within that, there's like all their different gangs and sets, and they like funk it with each other and shit. It's pretty involved and pretty deep, man.
Wow, holy crap. Like, we're learning a lot. I'm learning a lot here, at least. This is incredible. You, like me, might be wondering how legit is what Sean's saying actually gonna be. I'm curious because it's stuff I've never heard before. Well, what was his prison term like? I asked him. It's actually a proven 10 and a half or more years. Like, we're talking 10, almost 11 years of time. And he told me much more, too.
I was telling you about this. I caught an elder abuse case actually, and that's like highly frowned upon, right? Any crimes involving children, the elderly, or like sex crimes, like nobody's gonna put up with that in general population.
Like the other inmates or just in general?
Other inmates,
Yeah.
right? So if you go in with that kind of charge, like they're gonna smash you out like pretty much immediately. My case was a little different. Like I didn't actually commit the crime. And it's a long story, man, but more or less like my decisions in using drugs put me in a position to where I could be accused of the crime and not have a defense, right? And in all reality, like I was such a dirtbag and such a piece of shit that like I deserved to go to prison anyway. Um, an old man fell and I didn't call the cops, man, and he had had a stroke, dude. He ended up losing his leg for that. And out of my own selfishness and just dope fiend mentality, like I didn't do anything about it because I was living with him and I didn't want to lose my place to stay, right?
Right.
I was thinking about me. So I'd say I deserved to go to prison. I just didn't abuse the dude. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
Um, anyway, I went in and immediately when you go into county jail, like you have to show your paperwork to your people, right? So for me, I'm white. I go and show, I found like they escort me to my cell. A white boy comes to my cell. He says, "Hey, I'm so and so, blah blah blah." And I said, "All right, who's got the keys? Like who's the shot caller, right? Who's got the keys to the car?" And they say it's Ricochet. He's down here. I was like, "I know Ricochet. Tell him to come up here." So I was like, "Hey, bro, this is what I'm here for." I slid him my paperwork. I was like, "But check it out. Like I didn't do it. If you guys want to fucking remove me, smash me out, like I get it, but at least talk to me first. You know what I mean? And I'll let you know what's going on." So like, all right. So I talked to him and like he believed me and like and I'd been to prison with Ricochet before too. And he's like one of the ones from our county, I guess, with status. He's done a lot of prison time and he's got all the swastika and lightning bolt tattoos and shit, right? So he gave me a pass, right? And basically after like 6 months of fighting my case, he went to a different dorm and I just got way too comfortable, bro. Like I was doing too much. I ended up being the trustee, which is like, do you know what a trustee is in jail?
No.
So basically, the cops, they have the inmates like serve food and like be the janitor for the dorm and clean up and shit like that, right? Because they're not going to hire staff to do that shit. They have free labor. So they appoint an inmate from each race to be a trustee to help keep the dorm clean and serve food. And they get perks, right? The trustees, they get to be out of their cell more, they get extra food. And dude, I was just making wine all the time and like I got caught with Pruno and I didn't get written up and everyone was starting to whisper like, "Oh, this fool's a snitch, blah blah blah." And plus he's got bad paperwork and eventually they ended up smashing me out, right? And I was just like I was fucking up, bro. I was talking to the cop at the podium, like one on one, like we were cool and shit. Like, that's a no-no. I knew better. We're not supposed to be fraternizing with the police.
Yeah.
I just got too comfortable and I ended up getting smashed out. I got jumped by two dudes. It wasn't that bad. Um, but yeah, I ended up having to go to PC after that, protective custody, and that was the beginning of the end of my jail career, man. And where I had a shift in consciousness, so to speak. I was like, okay, this is no longer cool. This is no longer a status symbol I can cling to. This is fucking embarrassing now. Because
Mhm.
being in protective custody is like a mark of shame for a convict, man. It's something you never want to happen because you're in there with like snitches, child molesters, everyone with sex crimes is in protective custody. And you're like with the real piece of shits, right? And there's a lot of guys in there that are just like don't want to deal with politics or they're like gang dropouts, like I would be, right?
Yeah.
But it's every convict's worst nightmare to end up in PC, man. And there I was. And I was like, you know what? Like, something's got to change. But guess what? I still had a whole fucking prison term to do.
Yeah. So what happens like once you're NPC, do you just perpetually stay there or can you
Yeah.
leave? Okay.
I mean, I think if you catch a crime in another state, you can integrate into general population there. And it's like a different system, right?
Mhm.
Um, because no one will know you, right? But if you
Right.
try to like go, if you catch a case, like say I caught my case in Santa Clara County, if I caught a case in like LA County and they don't have me down as PC over there and I tried to go in general population and I went upstate, like someone's gonna fucking know me eventually and be like, that motherfucker's
That's
PC,
crazy.
and I'm probably gonna get stabbed in prison. So
That's crazy.
it's
What's
not smart.
what's difference? I'm curious now. What's the difference from PC to like general pop? Is it like is it a completely different treatment or
From the same shit, bro. Like
okay,
you're doing time. The only thing I'll say that's different is like once you go PC, there's no more enforced politics amongst the inmates. It's just like everyone's chilling. Pretty much the rule of thumb there is, and this is how it should be, bro, to be honest. Like just give respect, get respect, and don't fuck with the sex offenders. Ostracize them, extort them, beat them up if you want, but don't be friends with them.
yeah.
That
Do the
happens a lot.
cops do the cops encourage shit like that with like the real fuck bags, like the
Oh, yeah.
video? Shut
They'll
the
tell us, dude. I remember it was right before I went up to prison and I was in this dorm and dude, there was a fuck ton of weirdos in there, man. Like when I say weirdo, I mean like
right.
specifically like, yeah, like child molesters and rapists and shit. And there was this dude that came in, he looked all scared. And I should have known right away, like, what's this fucking square doing in jail, right? He's in PC. He's probably not here for fraud. I was just like being nice to him, like talking to him. And the cop was like, Mooney, podium. And I'm like, what's up, man? He's like, hey, don't talk to that dude, man. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, go look at the newspaper. And that dude was like on the newspaper. He had
Oh
molested kids at a
shit.
science camp.
Oh shit.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know a lot of that stuff. That's absolutely wild. I'm now curious. Like I have so many different questions I generated from this conversation. Where did the tattoos come in?
In what way? Like mine?
Yeah, so like you came into to prison without tattoos.
Yes.
You left with a shit ton.
I left with a shit ton. I got everything on my upper body completely done, except for I think except for that armpit. I have this one done. I'm pretty covered. My whole head's done. For me, like my first time in jail, just seeing all the woods that were just fucking tatted back, sleeved up, I thought it was sick, dude. I was like, bro, that's fucking cool. And they're all buff, you know what I mean? They're all
Yeah.
jacked. For our standards as bodybuilders, like just awful physiques, but they're all fat and shit, right?
Yeah.
But it's intimidating, bro, when you look at someone that's big and muscular and just tatted back, and they got the political tattoos, especially, are
Mhm.
like very intimidating. What I mean by that is like depending on what race you are, right? Like for the whites, like any letters that would say like where you're from, like I have NorCal right here, you have to earn that. Like this star, the white boys from Northern California, we get the nautical star. Like you have to earn that. Like I never got any like racial tattoos like swastikas or lightning bolts, mostly because I didn't put in the work to get those. But
Yeah.
like trust and believe, had I done that at that point in time, I would have. You know what I mean? Like thank God I didn't, because fuck, man.
Okay, so you say you have to earn them. And
Mhm.
this is generating even more questions. What do you have to do to earn them?
Remember how I was talking about when I got smashed out, I got removed. Situations like that, man, they come up a lot. You're called on to act on removing. When I say remove someone, like it's usually three on one, and you usually like beat the shit out of them like really really bad. And at that point, that person knows I'm being removed. I have to go to PC. Why you would do that would be someone with bad paperwork, a bad charge, like a sex charge, or a crime against elderly, or a child, like a child abuse charge, child endangerment. Like even like the biggest one you'll hear probably is like, oh, he has an R on his jacket. And that refers to when you're in prison, you get a piece of paper called a 128G. And that has like your entire criminal history on it. And if you've ever been arrested for or convicted of a sex crime, you have an R under that. It'll say sex crimes and it'll have little parentheses and it'll say R, right? And that means restricted. So like it won't say what they are. It's annotated that you have been convicted or accused of a sex crime. And that could even be like a pissing in public would get
Wow.
you an R, like an indecent exposure.
Hmm.
You get an R on your jacket, and that is like the cardinal sin. Like if you have that, your days are numbered. It's a wrap. We're gonna get you. And depending on like what prison you're at, like what custody level you are, is how bad you're gonna get it. So California State Prison, they have the custody levels. It's level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 4 being maximum security, level 1 being minimum. The politics increase in severity by the time you get to level 4. And I've never been to a level 4 facility. I'm not going to claim to be a Wes Watson, level 4 killer. I'm not that guy. I did a lot of my time on minimum yards, level 2 yards, where it's fairly soft. You know what I mean? I mean,
Hmm.
it's still active. There's still riots. There's still shit happening, but you're not seeing people get killed and stabbed every day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are more rare occurrences, but people are getting removed and stomped out and shit like that on a pretty regular basis.
So you get the tat. what happens to you as a repercussion of doing that though? Like I'm sure the fucking police don't just sit there and be like,
Oh
cool.
yeah.
They don't care.
So you're supposed, first of all, you're supposed to get caught.
Okay.
You're supposed to get caught. So this is how it goes down, right? Usually it's got to be at yard where the cops can see it, because when someone gets victimized or hurt or there's a fight or anything, you go to the hole, which is a slang term for administrative segregation, or ADSEG. And that's like a prison within the prison, right? Anyone that fucks up really bad or does a removal or gets caught with dope or anything like that, you go to ADSEG pending new charges, right? So the reason you do it on the yard is because the assailants have to go back to ADSEG with the victim to let the other white boys know, like, hey, that dude's a piece of shit. We removed him. This is what happened. Otherwise, if you don't get caught, like, and the dude rolls it up, he can go, like, when I mean roll it up, he like, say we beat him up and we don't get caught, and he just goes to the cops and he's like, oh, I got to get off the yard.
Right.
And he goes to the hole. He could spin whatever tale he wants, right?
Yeah.
And so you got to go there for confirmation. You have to put yourself at risk to catching extra time or another charge. Fucking wild, right? And it's just accepted. It's the way it is, and it's a badge of honor, so to speak.
Is it pretty much guaranteed you'll get a charge?
Depending on what it is. So if you stab someone like off the rip, you're getting a charge. The county of whatever prison that's in is filing charges on you. And it didn't used to be that way, like in the 90s and 80s, my understanding. I didn't do time back then. I can't say for sure. Like I've been to the hole twice for a riot and for a removal. And both times the DA didn't pick up charges, but it's because we just beat the shit out of the dude. We didn't stab anybody. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. I got like a 90-day write up. So they took 90 days of my good time. And then I had to spend 60 days in ADSEG. It's called a shoe term. And you got to do that little term in ADSEG before you can go back to general population.
What's that?
ADSEG is a cell block unit within the prison that specifically deals with people that have committed like crimes or like gotten into fights or get caught with dope in general population. And general population is usually like a really big yard, probably about 1,000 inmates in their different cell blocks. So imagine like a football field with like 5 or 6 cell blocks on it, and everyone gets to come out all at once to that yard 2 or 3 times a day. People are working in the kitchen, they're working in laundry. People have jobs and they have like a daily life and routine out there, right?
Sure.
You can get commissary, packages, visits, all that shit, right? In ADSEG, you're just locked down in your cell for 24 hours a day. You get to come out to go to yard and they like escort you to a little cage, and you can pretty much just walk around in that tiny cage that's outside.
Damn.
That's your yard. Yeah, it's definitely that shit really feels like prison, I'll tell you what.
So, okay, so how do they get the tattoos on you?
Oh, dude, I tattooed for years, man, in there. We make rotary tattoo machines out of the motor from a CD player, because you can get CD players and CDs in there. So the motor is for the tattoo machine is the motor from a CD player. You use pieces of a pen and like a pen filler as like your tube and barrel, and then either guitar string or like the spring from a pen stretched out as your needle. And people have access to like sandpaper and stuff to sharpen the needles. And then you hook that up to batteries or like an AC adapter that would come with a CD player. So you can like plug your CD player in the wall. You can
Yeah.
wire that up to a tattoo machine, and then it has like different speeds because you can adjust like the.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh,
That's
dude,
crazy.
yeah. So you can do some really, really good single needle tattoos in there, man. I started drawing my last term, dude. And I was doing like full portraits in pen like really quickly, and I was like, damn, I'm pretty good at this. And I would go to day room. So like when you're in a cell living, like a cell block, they'll let you go to day room or to yard. And day room's like the little room like inside the cell block, and you got your shower, TVs and shit. So when they let us out for day room, I just go out there with my folder and just draw and shit. And people were like, dude, you need a tattoo. I finally picked up a machine when I went to like a lower custody level, and I was like in a big dorm where you can just like, it's basically just bunk beds everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you can wander around all day. It's kind of cool. So I started tattooing there at Avenal. That was the prison. Learning curve was pretty steep, but eventually I learned like needle depth and how to shade and water down the ink, and I got pretty good at it.
That's
And
nuts, dude.
I loved it, bro. I wanted to do it for a living when I paroled. I ended up going to another prison with a lot of drugs and got just completely strung out on heroin. And I was pretty much just tattooing to feed my heroin habit. And yeah, dude, towards the end, it got so miserable. I went from doing like I had such a long line of a waiting list at one point, like I had this calendar and I was booked out like 2, 3 months in advance, dude.
Shut the fuck up, dude.
I swear to God. And people would pay me like fucking commissary or whatever. And this was before I got strung out, right? And I was just eating and working out and picking and choosing what tattoos I wanted to do. And it was really fun and fulfilling. And then once the drugs started coming in, I started getting loaded. It was just like, I'll do whatever tattoo just to get high. And then like I started getting in debt and then tattooing myself out of debt. And that's when it really just, I started hating it. I felt like I sold my soul, you know?
And while we're on the topic of prison tattoos, we have someone who's evidently an expert in prison tattoos. So what does he think of Wes Watson and the ink that he has supposedly from prison?
Would you say Wes Watson's tattoos, do you think that those are legitimate prison tattoos?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's got a lot of them redone. I can
Mhm.
tell. I think his sleeves are redone, his chest is redone. But if you go back and watch some of his older YouTube videos when he still had hair, like when he first got out of prison,
Yeah.
his tattoos look more like mine. They were more washed out and gray. And yeah, they're prison tattoos. There's no question. There's a certain style that you can't really mimic, where it's
Yeah.
just so like my shit is just so cluttered and
Yeah.
every space is filled. Like yours are the same way, but it's way more cohesive
Yeah.
and like readable, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, his are real.
All right, fair point. So his tattoos were started in prison and then finished out of prison, so it makes sense. Moving to the next point, however, and we see this grift often, the kind in which someone goes to prison and they are re-enlightened. They develop skills, values, and knowledge that pushes them into the next level of human existence. They become millionaire and billionaire individuals because of what they learned and took from the pen. Somehow, they gathered it there and nowhere else in life. They also developed a mindset that isn't criminal, but rich and successful.
Squat and cough, motherfucker, what you got? Fuck is the matter with you? The fuck up.
But why? How is that happening? Is prison really the stimulus someone needs for making millions of dollars? I'm sure you can see the correlation there probably isn't so great. Or what's more likely, is it just marketing hype?
What changed when you left for good? And what values did you walk away having now achieved? Or did you learn anything? Was there a certain type of, just to preface a little bit, like when I left the military, I accumulated a lot, right? In terms of like situational awareness and being able to just sort of like work myself into the ground without having a sweat, you know, shit like this, right? Basic stuff, skills, traits, whatever you'd like to call it, that you earned or got while in prison, and then also what kept you out.
The biggest thing would be like situational awareness. I was so conditioned to just always be on my toes and observing everything. And that's really stuck with me. It's like an institutionalized trait that a lot of people have. Like I'll always try to like sit facing a wall.
Yeah.
Like whenever I'm at the gym, dude, I'm just like head on a swivel, just looking at everyone. My wife always thinks it's funny because she's like, dude, you just people watch like
Yeah.
so hard.
Dude,
I can't help it, dude.
my girlfriend thinks I'm checking out other girls, and like I swear to God, like I'm just looking at fucking everybody right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, and like I know there's nothing threatening happening. It's just I want to take it all in and know what's happening and know who's there, right?
Mm,
So that's pretty ingrained in me. And I would say just like I fell in love with working out there and just picked up, you know, art skills and stuff. And mostly like I would say I learned how to be like a chameleon, right?
mm,
Like I could
yeah.
be okay or cool with like whoever. Like I could make myself be okay in any situation. It forced me to have like radical acceptance of, you know, just situations and circumstances that are beyond my control, which has really helped me like in my recovery from drug addiction. Because like acceptance is the key to all
Yeah.
our answers, they say in AA. I'm not the most money motivated person in the world, you know. I'm pretty just okay with, and I think maybe this is from prison to be honest, but I'm pretty okay with just having like a roof over my head and my bare essentials met and like, you know, family.
Yeah.
But I think just if someone's able to withstand the mental anguish that, you know, prison can bring, because it can make or break you, right?
Mm,
Like I hate to go back to like Wes Watson, but he says that shit a lot. And it's like I'm not really a fan of the dude, but he's right. Like some people, their time will fucking break them. And then some people, like it can really make them rise up and overcome situations and make them aware of how much, you know, willpower and resolve they actually have, right?
yeah.
I think that's invaluable to anybody.
Yeah.
And there's
It's-
like a certain just, I don't know, like finesse that people have that have been to prison, right? Like my wife and I are Big Brother fans, like the show.
mm,
And she's like, you would win, big brother. You win. In California prisons, you can take correspondence college classes and get like a legitimate education too. I mean,
great.
they offer like trade certifications. Like I became certified in welding and stuff,
In
which is almost
fucking
legal.
prison?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Like I'm a certified welder, and I don't like it, so I didn't ever pursue it.
That's some big money, dude. What?
I like carpentry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, there's definitely opportunities, and like your time's what you make of it, dude. There's people in there. I'm not going to claim to be any expert on law, but like I know way more than most just from fighting my own cases and just soaking in knowledge from other people fighting theirs. And like, there's some legitimate, like bona fide jailhouse lawyers in there that do their own appeals, and it's
Wow.
pretty impressive. It's usually lifers, you know,
Yeah. They've been
and
there for a minute.
oh yeah, they're on their shit, man.
That's interesting. When you look at people like Wes Watson, Cali Muscle, do you see someone representative of respect in prison, right? Like, do you look at him and this motherfucker was respected for sure? Or do you see him as kind of a look like in the military? This is the way I'll put it. In the military, there's a lot of guys who will be like, yeah, I fucking, I did this and I did this and, I went here and I try to tout it like all day long. And
Yeah.
lo and behold, they haven't done shit. They've just been sitting in their fucking barracks all day long for 8 years straight. They never went anywhere. And sometimes there's other motherfuckers who've been everywhere and done some crazy ass shit. And you read their record and you're like, dude, what the fuck has this guy been through? But he won't say a word. Do you think his representation is what it probably was?
Dude, it's hard to say I'm not going to speak on something that I don't 100% know because I don't
Sure.
know for sure. I've heard Wes has lied about doing his time. What I do know is usually like the old saying of don't talk about it, be about it kind of holds true. The people that talk the loudest, I mean, sometimes they do know how to fight and they've put in their fair share of work. I had a cellmate that was doing life without parole. He's an ex-Nazi lowrider, which is like an offshoot of the Aryan Brotherhood with the shit. I was his cellmate for 6 months before he started talking to me about some of the shit that he had done. And I was like mind blown, dude. Like this guy was a straight fucking killer. And I was
Yeah.
living with him in there for murder too.
Right.
And he didn't walk around with his chest puffed out and talk about all that shit. So to me, I think for Wes Watson, it's branding and he's doing a good job because incredibly successful. And I watched his content when I first got out of prison in 2019. I was in a halfway house and my bunkmate, I was hearing, he was watching him on his iPad on the top bunk and I hear this motherfucker, you're a fucking pussy. I'm like, what are you listening to, bro? And he's like, it's this guy he's a white boy. He's been to prison. And so he starts showing me and Wes is giving the rundown of how prison politics work. I'm like, this motherfucker knows what he's talking about, like to a T. Did he do all the shit he says? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you 100% that he's been to prison and done some time because he
For
knows
sure.
what's up. Generally, people don't act like that in there, you know? People don't want to test you all the fucking time if that's how you are,
Mhm.
you know? And if that's the kind of if you want to be fighting every day and go ahead, but you usually like you get respect by giving respect. You don't get respect by talking shit and acting the hardest. You know what I mean? You
For
get
sure.
you get your respect when when your number's pulled and it's time for you to put in work and you do it.
Okay, so maybe prison does provide some degree of values and also a legitimate education, which actually, when you think about it, is pretty cool, but I don't think it's the kind of education that's going to lead you to being a multimillionaire or multi-billionaire. I think we can all agree upon that. So it could be a skill acquisition thing. He acquired some skills and values in prison, and that opened up a lot of doors for him. Or, again, it could be all hype. That hype obviously writes off someone being an alpha male coach, which is pretty much a red flag already. I think what can be said here is that one, I think you develop traits that support being a hard worker and resilient, which are both things that are critically functional for real life and certainly trying to be an entrepreneur. Two, you also develop an idea that respect is not given, it's earned. You have to do extreme things sometimes to gain respect, may it be buying a Bugatti or beating a guy up. But here's what I keep coming back to and just doesn't make sense. We keep talking about the situations involving all of these idiot douchebags, and much of the reason why is they can't stop talking about how they went to prison and how they're better than everyone everybody else. Why keep reliving the past? They build an entire clothing brand around it and make it their entire online persona. If you built a successful life, if you have become successful and stepped away from the prison lifestyle and petty crimes, wouldn't you want to separate yourself, your new self, from that past version of you instead of constantly identifying as that guy, constantly trying to embrace the aggro of everybody else because you're tough and in prison and you want to scare people? I mean, isn't that exhausting and also something that's not conducive to a happy and healthy life? Even sometimes these guys have been out of prison for a decade or more and they're still reliving the same old thing. So, of course, I'm going to ask what Sean has to say.
Like, that was me, dude. I rep that shit hard. I got all these tattoos because I wanted everyone to know when they saw me in public, like, that motherfucker's been to the joint. And it for like going back to it being like I was aimless and it became my identity. Like, I think most people that go to prison, they make that their entire personality and their identity, because what else have they got going for them, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not a productive member of society. They don't have a career. Their career is prison, and prison's not the easiest place to survive. So if you can survive that, like that, yeah, it is something to be proud of in a way. It's not values that coincide with mainstream society.
Sure.
But having been there, been that way, I 100% understand. And yeah, that's how most people are in prison. They're very proud to have been somewhere as tough as state prison, right? Especially California, man. There's so much gang culture. You're
For
talking
sure.
about like me, I'm just a white kid from the suburbs, dude. Like, I wasn't in a gang. But you
Yeah.
got some of these Crips and Bloods and Southsiders, like, they're born into generational gangs. And bro, like, it's a whole nother level of pride when it comes to that, right?
What do you think when you see, behaviors of Wes Watson, the behaviors of Big Boy? I don't know if you follow any of the boys that Wes Watson hangs out with, but when you see their behaviors and kind of like how they're publishing themselves, does it kind of make you feel a type of way?
I mean, I guess it's just cringe,
Yeah.
For me, like someone that's was forced out of it, there's a little resentment there too, right? To be honest. But it's also like the knowledge of, hey, like, I'm living the life that I've always wanted. I'm a productive member of society. I'm a husband, I'm in recovery. I have a career and I have a passion in bodybuilding. Like, I'm a normal fucking person now,
Yeah.
right? It's like, why do these people want to cling on to that so dearly? Right. But on the flip side, I get it because it's working. They're making more money than I am.
For
Right.
sure.
They're
Yeah.
famous.
Yeah. If
So
you look
they've,
at it as a marketing tactic, it's
oh my God,
brilliant. Yeah.
it's brilliant.
Brilliant.
And I can't fault them for it or hate on it. Like, it's cringe, you know what I mean? Like, and low
Mm.
key, I don't know. I could be wrong, but it looks like Big Boy from Strength Cartel. Those don't look like prison tattoos to me. Like, they
No.
look like they're done on the streets and like,
Yeah.
and he's got like San Clemente blasted on him, which is like the nicest fucking city in Orange County. It's so rich. I went to a sober living house there, and it's like, bro, where's the hood?
It does not exist.
Yeah, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I don't live down there. There's probably a ghetto, but
Yeah. Who knows?
I don't want no problems, big boy. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay, so you see that and it's kind of cringe. What do you think about the values that these boys talk about as well? You generally, like just mentioned, you live a happy life, but you're kind of by nature of just what you like to do, kind of living some of the aspects of what he has to say. But what do you think about those? I mean, is there validity behind them, or are these kind of prison values that have been developed and ingrained and then implemented?
Like hyper masculine machismo shit, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody is less than me if they're not into working out
Hmm.
or say if they haven't been to prison. Good, you haven't been to prison, that's great. But
Yeah.
like, I don't think that there's any good comes from talking down on people that aren't ripped, rich, and rare. It's hard to really shake a stick at it because I know in my heart of hearts that it's marketing. But at the same time, it's like, bro, like, you're out of pocket. Like, leave people alone. Leave normal people alone, bro. Like, you're not the norm. Like,
Yeah.
what you are doing and portraying is not normal. So stop trying to make everyone see that your way is the only way, because it's not.
So this is super interesting, right? Because this is something I battle with a lot. as, you know, someone who's not, I'm not necessarily content with living like I have a roof over my head and food and stuff like that. Like there's just something in me. We were talking about this last night on a YouTube live I was doing, but I just want shit, dude. And I don't know why I want it. Sometimes I just want it and I'm like, dude, why do I fucking want this? You know, like I was looking at ordering a Tesla Cybertruck and everyone was like, why the fuck would you do that? I'm like, I don't even know. I just want it. Like, I hate that. I don't need it inside, you know, like, or up here, maybe. I know I don't even want that. In here, there's some kind of desire or yearning for it. I'm curious, like, what makes you so different that it's not, and you probably yearn for things and want shit, but like, what is it that doesn't make you want this? Yeah, a fucking Bugatti, Ferrari, a Rolls. Like, you don't want these crazy, ridiculous things. And you're content with somewhat of a general life, a secure life.
I mean, I would say it's average, basic, like, and keeping, like, I think it comes from how low my bottom was, man. You're talking to someone that all through their 20s couldn't imagine even owning a car
Hmm.
or having an apartment or even what the next day looked like because all I cared about was shooting heroin. My dream then was just to be a normal person who wasn't addicted to drugs, that had a job, that had a car, that could just be happy living a normal life. That's all I've ever wanted. And keep, like, I come from like a pretty well-off family. Like my dad makes good money. He's not, you know, doing bad at all, right? But I'm not wired the same way he is. And maybe I chalk that up to the just going without for so long in prison. And that kind of shaped it framed like what I wanted in life, right? I guess if I had the basic necessities and I didn't have to suffer active drug addiction, I'm okay. You know, I'm happy. And, you know, having a wife, that really is the most fulfilling thing, having
Yeah.
a partner, and a dog, but, and bodybuilding.
Great.
Bodybuilding actually holds it all together, to keep it real. I don't quite understand why people are wired that way because I'm not. So it's really hard to have insight on why you want a Cybertruck or why you want to own 3 homes. Like, I mean, I'm like, I'll be happy with just a house and a dog and a wife, man, a couple kids. When you're talking about it, I'm like, man, maybe I should want more shit.
Dude, fuck. I think it's interesting that you say that because you were in a similar environment. Wes Watson talks about sleeping 3 hours a night and, you know, just working nonstop all day ever. And but it's like he's this coming from the same kind of background. And look, I think a lot of what he has to say is fraudulent in terms of like how much he works and how much he sleeps. It's just like it doesn't even make sense. You're not surviving off 3 hours of sleep.
So overall, this video was a blast to make. I gained tons of insight. Sean is a really cool dude. His Instagram is going to be down below in the description. And I think I'm genuinely walking away with a few things from all of this. One, the actions, behaviors, and certain marketing techniques is just all hype. It's all hype. It's not even likely real that we're seeing from these individuals. It's selling you a dream and then capitalizing on the dream that they've sold you. Two, prison is a lot like the military in many different ways. The sense of camaraderie, togetherness, belonging, having a purpose, as well as having pride for something you went through that is extremely tough that the majority of the population wouldn't be able to do. This is likely why we see a lot of these prison folks hanging around each other like a pair of sappy leaves. Obviously, I think one is more conducive than the other. Obviously, military being more conducive than prison time, but you understand the similarities. However, it seems like these prison folk just love to be together. And three, prison time can definitely provide you some assets and values. It definitely provides you things to strive forward towards in life and possibly even an education. However, these values aren't typically the ones that Westergen talks about. In fact, he probably talks more in reverse than he does forward. But that's the weird sort of belittlement that gets people to pay him so much money to give him advice that literally doesn't exist. But I'd be curious about what you guys think down below in the comments.